Hello, foodies. This is John for the review. We are going to get you through our gameplay setting, or actually our controller settings. You go to game settings, you go to controller setting, and you have two different presets, competitive or the other one. You just want to put it on competitive. Basically, if you put it on competitive, that means this is every online match you play uses standard these settings. So even if you put this off competitive into custom or whatever, if you play online, the custom or the competitive things will turn on. Competitive means auto shots, assisted headers are turned off by default. So it doesn't matter how you set it up. If you play an online match, in foot or out of foot, this is turned off anyway. So just put it on competitive to make sure you at least know what's on and what is in your influence or in your settings to change. We go into shot assistance. Well, you can do this manual, of course, precision shooting, assisted shooting. There's two options here. Both are equally good if I'm quite honest. There's precision shooting, which will definitely give you an advantage if you're good at it, but it can also be a little bit inconsistent, a little bit frustrated, and it's another thing to learn. If you're new to the game or a newer player, turn this on. Assisted. If you are a FC veteran and you're confident in your abilities, put this on precision and it will benefit you. So I'd say pro settings, precision. I'd say mere mortals, assisted. I'm a mere mortal. I put it on assistant because I don't think it's worth it in the end. I rather miss a chance that could have gone in with precision shooting, that miss a chance with precision shooting on that was the possibility of just that needed to go in, if that makes sense. So I try to be risk averse in this situation, but this is preference. What's not preference is time finishing. I think time finishing, always turn it on. There is no disadvantage of time finishing. So time finishing, we should make a new tutorial about it. Basically, you press the shooting button, and the moment you're getting close to the ball, you press the shooting button once again, and you hit it just perfect the second touch, it will turn into a green timed shot, which is faster, which is more accurate. It's just way unstoppable. This is trainable for everyone. Plus, there's no disadvantage of it, because if you don't tap it twice, it will just be a regular shot. So turn it on. Please start practicing it. It's always worth having timed finishing on. On to passing. Out flare pass is off because it's in competitive mode. Doesn't even work. True pass assistant, you have it on manual, semi. I would just make it on semi because I don't see an advantage of putting on manual. For that one situation where it might just connect. This game is, well, it's rather slow at the moment, but it's generally speaking a fast game where you don't have the time to just measure out your passes. I would put this on semi. Same goes for lob through pass. It's the same thing. If you have the time and it's actually pretty cool to do so, you could do it on manual. I don't think it's worth it in the end. It'll be going wrong more often than it goes right. So please just put it on semi. Ground pass assistant, it's assisted or manual or semi. I put it on semi or assisted because passing, I prefer short passing anyways, but there's no reason to make it passing harder for yourself. In this game, in FC25, you have to look at someone to actually be able to connect the pass anyways. Make sure you do that, and then this will just help. Cross assistant, there's a couple of options here which I tend to change a little bit. I sometimes go to full manual. I sometimes go to semi or assisted. I think if you do it on semi, it will give you better feeling for those crosses. But again, if you always want to connect the cross, put it on assistant, but you will have a little bit less influence on it. I think especially when you play, for example, the rush mode, you want to have a little bit more feeling with the passes. So I put it on semi. It's assistant. Low pass assistant, here goes basically the same. If you put it on semi, it will be partial assistant. It's the same thing as with the cross assistant. You can do it on manual, you can do it on assistant. I like to have a little bit of a feeling with pass, receiver, lock. Well, basically this is when you play a ball and a player that's about to receive the ball, well, you look at someone, you want to pass from A to B, player gets the ball. This decides when you automatically am player 2. Like this, the player receives. So you pass the ball, goes from A to B. If you put this on as late as possible, what I do, and the moment the ball hits you, then I'm this player. But usually, it is just preference. Everyone that says here's a good or right, or the pro way of doing it, honestly, I know players that use power up, and I can't do it, but it's pretty good. I use play that use late. I'm someone that you prefer late, but it's also something I'm used to. This is preference. What I would advise is to stick on it, pick one, and stick for it for a couple of matches, maybe a couple of weeks even, and then it'll work. Neither of these are bad. Don't trust anyone that says it. Precision pass shoot, sensitivity. I mean, I'm an old man. I put it on normal. You can put it on high if you think it needs a little bit more sensitivity. It is good that they implemented this last year, but I was used to the old style. So for me, normal is fine. Defending, out clearance, off, but that's because it is a competitive mode setting anyways. Clearance assistance, there's the classic, that's the directional. If you classic, that means they will assist fully on the defend. And if you have it on directional, you decide as a defender if you want to clear the ball, where it goes to. So you have to aim where it goes to. I personally always want to make sure I decide where the ball hits to, and I'm not totally randomly surprised by a corner being defended by my center back, which passed the ball to the back line. I want to make sure it goes out of bounds or the other way around, for example. So I keep this on direction, which does mean that you have to move your left stick in the direction you want to defend in once you are defending. So you hold L2, you defend, you hold the left stick to the side you want to pass the ball to, or head the ball to, or hit the ball away from. Then you put it on directional. But I think if you are now someone that puts on classic and you switch to directional, you notice a couple of differences. At the start, it goes wrong a couple of times, but once you get used to it, there's no turning back to it. Jockey, you can't set it. It's on manual by default. Defending, you want to put this on advanced defending. I even find a way you can, right? If you put this on tactical defending, right? If you put it on tactical defending, you press a button and your player decides how hard the tackle should be and which kind of tackle you should be developing. If you put this on advanced defending, if for example, you decide to do a longer tackle, you hold the tackle button a little bit longer, or you do it with the L2 button involved, or even the R1 button involved, it actually does different kinds of tackle. So if you want to make sure this is a steady tackle in the box, you can now choose to, if you put this on tactical defending, the CPU will decide for you, which in my opinion leads to more penalties and more free kicks and less feeling about defending, so I put it on advanced. But again, this is preference. I prefer advanced. Pass block assistant. Okay, so I know I'm a little bit spoiled maybe by this, but I always put this on off. If you put it on, players will step in or actually turn around to like cover the ball off, right? But I don't want my players to step into a ball, even if it's meant to be a block, on their own. Because if they do it on their own, they break open the back line and give space to an opponent. And an opponent that figures that out can easily just either walk past. There's a new boost and sprint animation that can just walk past you as well, and you can't decide it. It's far better to make yourself used to being the player that's in front of the ball and able to intercept that ball and block yourself. Just hold L2, stand in the line, hold the jockey, just stand there, make sure you tackle. But it's much better in the long run. If you feel like you're late on switching though, and this is a tip at the start, if you feel you're like a little bit late on switching, or you could have blocked that but you weren't fast enough to get that player in position, you can turn it on for the first couple of weeks in FC25. But in the end, putting this on off gives you far better control everything your defenders do. Auto switch move assistance. This is preference, honestly. So you can put it on manual, which means you always have to switch when you put it on L1 or with the right stick. You always have to switch whenever the ball moves, right? You don't want to do that, for example, on corners. It is on manual. It's really hard to select the right player. So at least you want to do it on air balls. Sometimes you don't want to put it on automatic either because you want to be in control. But you can also say on air balls and loose balls. I do that. Usually it's good enough. And on loose balls, you can still have time to switch around. Loose ball is whenever the ball is in the air and it's just waiting to come down. Usually when you put it like this, you will be selecting the player that's close to the ball. But that's the player you probably want to be anyway. So I have it on air and loose balls. At least put it on air balls. You can put it automatically, but I think it makes you a worse FIFA player in the end. And if you put it on manual, I think you'll have a lot of trouble. So I would advise either on balls air balls and loose balls, or at least on air balls. Auto switching move assistant. This is pure preference. And again, anyone that tells you differently, it's just what you're used to. What it means is, it says it in the screen, of course, as well. If you switch to a player, that player will keep moving. So you send the striker for a run, right? He goes forward towards the box. If this is on low and you pass the ball and you are selecting that player, he will do like one more step. And you have to make sure you put the left stick in front towards the direction he's still moving if you want to keep him moving that way. But it also means that if this is on low and you get the ball and you put your left stick to the backside again, you would just get the ball, turn around. Or about to get the ball and then turn around, which means, especially if you want to hit your strikers, if you put it on low, you got far more control on the incoming player. If you put this on high, it will start running for a little bit more before you're actually in control, which is fine if you only want to spam through balls. But even then, why not learn yourself that you're able to control that yourself by putting this on low? You can put this on none. I don't think that makes any sense. I put it on low. Right stick switching, honestly, I use classic because, like I said, I'm an old man. I've been playing this for a long time. You can do player rotation. I don't quite like this because you have to switch with your right stick. You see which player you're about to move, then you click the L1 and then you're doing. I think it's slower. It makes more sense if you're new to the game, but I think it's way slower. If you put it on adaptive, it's a nice system. What it does is the further you hold the right stick, the further away the player is that you're selecting. Does it work? Yeah, it was a bit laggy at times in the last game. It's pretty good in this game, if I'm honest. But for me, we need to relearn too much. I'm not doing that. So I'm putting this on classic. Then we go to the right stick switching reference, which, yes, you have ball relative, you have player relative. Again, there's people that swear by the one, swear by the other. Basically, what it means is, if the player you are selecting, who you control, is in the center of the pitch, the right stick decides which player you select, right? If you're in the center, you put your right stick all the way up, you take the one that's the right top screen of your, on the right top side of your screen. If you put it on ball relative and the ball is down, right? That would mean you have to put it way more up if you want to select the same player. Usually your player you're selecting is pretty much in the middle of the pitch if the camera zooms out, and I use a very zoomed out camera, so player relative is far more sensible for me. But this is preference. You just have to read what fits you the best. And again, this is one of those settings where you pick one, you stick to it, and you don't switch it around, you just burn it. I learned this a long time ago, so I'm never switching back until there's a better way of doing it. I prefer this. Right stick switching sensitivity against preference, but it's good they implemented it. Mine is just on the default 4. I think 4 is the default. But I know players that are way faster than me and put this on 8, for example. I put it on 4. For me, it's decent. I think that's like a pretty good average. Next, player switching is something they implemented last year, which I think is pretty cool. It is, if you click the L1 button, or the LB button, I'm not sure. If you put it on classic, that is this way. Sort of the game decides for you. That's what always has been the case until last year. Pretty hard to do consistency, and then you have to learn yourself right stick switching. If you put it as close to the ball, you get the player that's closest to the ball and able to intercept or deflect the ball, which for me is often the player I want to select anyway. So this just fits my build perfectly, and this made me switch a little bit more to left trigger switching than right stick switching. I still use both, but I use right stick switching a lot less often than I did before FC24 hit. And if you put it on goal side, which means you select a player that is close to the goal basically, which is good if you think you're slow at, for example, selecting players at through balls, then this could actually save you a little bit. But again, this is preference. I select closest to the ball because that's just my preference. Yeah, this is something you can turn this on and off. What it basically does is it looks at the delay. It basically is sort of, if you look at that video game graphics, it sort of thinks about how much time do you need to have and how much time do you switch sometimes accidentally. For example, if you use the right stick to switch or the left LB, you can just click to to get to the right player, and that is the first player you're selecting, you can turn this modifier all the way down, which means if you click the LB, it will be slower to come to that player. Honestly, you can turn it off and on. I found if I put it on and on 6, it's sort of alright anyways. I have not noticed too much difference between on and 6 or off in my situation, which probably means this is as slow as I am. Honestly, try it. I'd say try it, but keep it the last resort. If you're in doubt, put this on off, right? Player lock, I got it on. Again, it clicks the right. You have to click both sticks to enable it. If you want to try it, feel free to do it. But there's actually never a situation in this game where you accidentally press both sticks. So this is the same as time finishing. It is a skill that adds up on your skill level. And if you turn it on, you can practice it. But if you turn it off, you can't practice it, but it won't help you either. And it does hurt if you turn it on. So I would always turn it on. Anyways, right? Dribbling, contextual dribbling is always on. Safe, assistant. I think just put it on assistant. Manual, you don't really want. It's fine. I don't even know it works, honestly. Analog sprint, I turn it off, which means if you turn the right sprint button, if you click the sprint button, it basically means it goes full speed. So this is no sprint, this is 100% sprint. I have the Pro controllers, which I set and low close proximity anyway, so I don't know if you can see that if we try to close it up. So it just has a very low travel. If it has the high travel, it would make a little bit more sense to turn this off because you actually have like a little bit of feeling to it. But in FIFA, I just want them full sprint anyway, so I make it close, and this is 100% already. That's all the controller settings. If you have any questions, drop them down below. And of course, if you like it, hit subscribe and like on the channel. And of course, we make daily content, so follow that as well.